Greetings, everyone, and welcome. I'm the Chancellor Soul Mike Boone. You tune into part 2 of the Tony Drake story on Soul Facts. After an unsuccessful mainstaying with Brunswick Records, Tony Drake left the label in 1971. Now, since musical and Brunswick imprints couldn't blueprint his foothold in their companies, Tony decided that independence was the key to his destination. He began performing at various nightclubs, including one in Boston called Louis' Lounge. When the show was over, the owner told him that the manager of the club ran off with the money. Tony was staying overnight because he met a girl, but asked the man could he do him a favor and call his manager, Johnny Roberts. The guy said, "Johnny's your manager?" Tony said, "Yeah." "Well, I'll tell you what. I'll pay you from the cash register, but please don't tell the other artists." The name Johnny Roberts was a powerhouse in the industry. Mention his name, you got paid. Soon afterwards, Tony Drake began recording demos for songwriter-producer Clyde Otis. Drake gained a reputation in the business for demo and voiceover work, doing radio commercial jingles with artists like Carolyn Franklin for Salem Cigarettes and the popular Drake's Cakes commercial that aired on WBLS FM station in New York. Here now is Tony Drake.
Actually, I was doing demos for people. That means that you go in and you make a demonstration record for the actual artist to record. Mm-hmm. So I was doing demos mainly for a gentleman by the name of Clyde Otis. And Clyde Otis, famous producer and songwriter for Dinah Washington, and wrote all the great Brooke Benton hits. Mm-hmm. And, so he was just one of the greatest as well. And he had me doing demos along with many other artists, Mm-hmm. But I did jingles, I did Cool Cigarettes, Salem Cigarettes, Drake's Cakes, So I did all of those things, Mm-hmm. And I was like a voice for hire. So if someone asked me to do a demonstration record, I was glad to do it.
Mm-hmm. Tony began composing his own music and associated himself with well-known singers, songwriters, and producers in various offices on 51st Street and Broadway, possessing his flamboyant attire, attracting not only women, but inquisitive onlookers that gained suspicion of his daily living or activities. One gentleman that should be mentioned who played a significant role in the development of Tony's career and his dapper style appearance. Concert promoter Mr. Clyde Watson, who later in his career became an A&R promotion man for Dick Griffey's Solar Records label during the late 1970s. While Drake showcased his demeanor and style, he claimed that an up-and-coming movie director-producer saw him on 51st Street and became inspired to write the screenplay of Superfly, starring Ron O'Neal, and would develop his character on screen through Tony's real-life, everyday image.
You're gonna make your fortune by and by. But if you lose, don't ask no questions why.
Tony Drake was not only a remarkable performer, but also a gifted songwriter. With the stroke of his golden pen, Drake composed a quintessential masterpiece tune called "Living in the Footsteps of Another Man." In his own description, Tony recalls on how the foundation of the song was created.
I was actually involved in a relationship, and the young lady that I was involved to constantly contact her ex, she'd say, well, his mail still comes here, so I got to take his mail to his place.
Wow. And
then his child lived there, and his child was constantly comparing me with her dad,
Yeah.
So to taunt this woman, when she came in from where I had thought was probably at the guy's house,
Right.
she comes in, and I'm saying, where you been? She always dropped the mail off at his house, you know. So opposed to fighting or arguing, I just said, I started to taunt her, you know. It just came into my mind. I said, oh, I'm living in the footsteps of another man. And I say, his baby's here.
Wow.
You know, and so is his darling dear, you know. So I was singing this song, and I was taping, because I had been taping previously some songs that I was doing for Clyde Otis, and the tape was still running.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there with a microphone in my hand, and this actually records. So when I listened back to it, maybe the next day, I said, wait a minute, this sounds like a song.
Right.
And I did begin to add some different words, add words to it, because I did have, the majority of it was done right there at that moment.
Living in the Footsteps of Another Man was placed as the second track on side 1 on the Chi-Lites' 1972 gold album, A Lonely Man, next to their #1 hit, Old Girl. Footsteps is also featured on 3 other Chi-Lites LPs, including their first Greatest Hits album released in 1972, the Chi-Lites Greatest Hits Volume 2, and the Half a Man album, both released in 1975. Now, the back cover of the Chi-Lites' first Greatest Hits album displays a picture of the group, with member Robert Squirrel Lester sporting a smoking red suede hat that was first worn by Tony Drake. Squirrel was so intrigued by Drake's green hat, he kept bugging him and asked him, where did he get it? Tony finally gave in and told him the secret location on where to purchase it. Squirrel went to the place and purchased the hat in red. Tony, of course, was in total shock when he saw the back cover of the Chi-Lites album with Squirrel sporting the hat in red. Living in the Footsteps of Another Man was released as a B-side single opposite We Need Order. Charting number 13 R&B on January 13 of 1973. Also, there was a B-side of We Need Order.
Yeah, it was the B-side of We Need Order, and what happened was throughout the years, the song kind of took on its own life, Immediately after Chi-Lites released that song, it went, I just recently found this out. I asked questions to find out how this had taken place. The song had become a major hit in Jamaica. And the Jamaican artists started to record it, like Delroy Wilson was the first to record it. And it had such great potential that Brunswick even began to record it on female groups. They recorded on the Promises.
Right.
So they had it on the Promises, Living in the Footsteps of Another Girl. Delroy Wilson had it. And would you believe that for the next 20 years or so, people continued to record Living in the Footsteps. I mean, including the great Prince of Reggae, Dennis Brown.
Oh, yes. And was nominated to Grammy also.
Yeah,
It was on that Greatest Hits.
That's right.
Right.
And then you have Tristan Palmer.
Yes.
I mean, Alton Ellis, some of the greatest reggae singers of all time have recorded that song. So it got so confusing that people didn't know where the song came from. I mean, So, in fact, it was just recorded a couple years ago by La Pina and Soul Kingdom or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
On a CD called Cora.
Oh,
in Italian. And, man, it's absolutely incredible.
That's the CD that hit #1 over there also as well.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about one group that came to this country in 1988. And, I mean, this group right here was absolutely fascinating, the group, the Pasadenas.
Oh, man, the Pasadenas. Well, actually, in 1988, the Pasadenas recorded Living in the Footsteps, ironically, again, as a second cut.
Right, on the LP, right.
Like Old Girl, Living in the Footsteps, and theirs was also the second cut.
Absolutely, yeah.
And their album, To Whom It May Concern, sold platinum in Europe, in the UK.
Right.
And then they brought it here in 1989 and changed the cover and we re-released it.
Yeah.
They had airplay on MTV and VH1 every 15 minutes. You saw these guys singing their classic tribute.
Yes, indeed.
And Living in the Footsteps was listed to be the third release from that CD.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they had banners in Sam Goody's all over Manhattan. They had banners. I went down and filmed some of the things.
Right.
Living in the Footsteps was hanging all over Manhattan,
Right.
And all over MTV. Cousin Brucey interviewed them. They were everywhere.
Oh, good day in New York here.
So I was under the impression that this was finally going to be a big break for me as a songwriter, to make some real money.
Right.
Because I hadn't really earned any big money from that song since the Shy Lights recorded it,
Well, as Tony stated, Living in the Footsteps of Another Man continued to live up to his legacy over the years, with various artists the world over recording the infamous tune, starting with The Promises, with agenda change to Living in the Footsteps of Another Girl, released in 1972.
Living in the footsteps of another girl, I'm living it. Oh, no. Living in the footsteps of another girl, I'm living it.
Marianne Farah and Satin Soul in 1976.
And I'm living. You know that I'm living it. You know I'm living. You know that I'm living it.
And our friends overseas in Jamaica, starting with Delroy Wilson in 1973.
Living in the footsteps of another man, I'm leaving. Oh, no. Living in the footsteps of another man, I'm leaving. Yeah.
The Prince of Reggae, Dennis Brown.
Living in the footsteps of another man, I'm leaving. Oh, no. Living in the footsteps of another man, I'm leaving.
Tristan Palmer.
And I'm living in the footsteps of another man. I'm living in the footsteps of another man.
Our friends in the UK, the Pasadenas.
I'm living in the footsteps of another man. Baby, I'm living. Oh, no. Living in the footsteps of another man. Baby, I'm living.
And La Pina East Soul Kingdom from the #1 CD Cora in Italy, released in 2000.
Sei così, sempre che fa delirare, che mi fa sudare, che mi toglie fame, sei così. Luce che non mi dà sonno, sogno che non mi ricordo. Dove vuoi ti porto, perché sei così. Quando mi baci
There's been approximately 100 released CDs
vuoto spinto di
on
essere
Footsteps.
remoto, siamo l'epicentro. Remida, continua, voglio le tue mani addosso, posso tutto addosso.
Multitudes of the Shy Lights' 1972 recording of Living in the Footsteps of Another Man has been issued on various labels over the years, including Columbia Records and so many others. How the Shy Lights retrieved the song Footsteps, Tony Drake explains.
I began to write a few songs, and I didn't know for sure if they were songs or if they were just ideas, that I had put together.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I know one person that I could get together and ask for his opinion to tell me if these are really songs, if they have any potential in becoming a song or whatever.
Right.
So I got together with Eugene Record when the Shy Lights appeared here at the Apollo Theater in 71 or so. And that night after the show, I went back to the hotel with the group, and I went into Eugene's room, and there was just the two of us there, and I asked him to take a listen to the tape, which I had about 10 songs on that tape.
Wow.
So he listened to the first two, and he said, "Yeah, these are good. These are songs." And he finally got to Living in the Footsteps. The minute he heard that first note, he went into his closet in the hotel there, which he had brought his guitar along with him.
Wow.
He pulled his guitar out, and he started playing along with the music, track that we had cut on Living in the Footsteps.
Right.
He said, "Man, did you write this?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You got to be kidding," because I wasn't a songwriter, so he didn't expect me to do that.
Right. Tony Drake continued performing in clubs and composing music in taking the business of the industry. Drake became associated with a production company called Them Two Music, with an office located at Lincoln Center in New York. Company funds was mismanaged and embezzlement within the investors took place, whereas Tony asked for a release of his contract. Tony was back in the studio making more music with his co-partner Jimmy Smith and with top-notch songwriters like Patrick Adams with the Continental Ford's 1975 remake of Lovin' You is the Next Best Thing to Heaven.
Loving you is the next best thing to heaven. Loving you is the next best thing to being there.
Stan Lucas's lively party jam Live It Up
We're gonna live it up. We're gonna do it like we did it before. We're gonna laugh it up. Have big fun, love each other more and more and more.
Tony's own masterpiece uplifting composition of Hey World, recorded by Gwen McCrae in 1982 and featured on her On My Way album.
Hey world, I'm on my way. I ain't gonna look back. I'm going straight ahead.
Hey world, I'm on my way. I ain't gonna look back. I'm going straight ahead. Hey world, I'm on my way. They may say that I'm wrong, but who are they to say?
Other classic issues about Tony Drake include unreleased material, such as One Call Away,
Sweet darling, say you'll always be one call away from me. Say it.
Mama Come Home,
Mama, come home. Come home. Everything goes wrong, baby, when you're not at home.
Is There No Solution,
Is there no solution to all this revolution going on?
It Won't Be Because I Don't Want to Go,
Won't be because it won't be because I want to go.
No More Falling,
No more falling in and out of love. No.
Here I Come Again,
Even though I know that I must let go, here I come again, here I come again.
Lonely at the Top,
Won't somebody tell them it's lonely at the top? Well, I've been there, and I do declare that the madness never stops. And I'm here to tell them it gets lonely at the top.
They Are Somebody Too,
Cause I am somebody, and if you are somebody, well then they are somebody. They're somebody too.
and Circumstance, a song that singer Lou Rawls was to perform at the UNCF, United Negro College Fund, but bowed out the last minute because of politics and jealousy.
Even though I had to quit school, my mother didn't raise me to be no fool. It was circumstance.
The story went that Tony met Lou Rawls at rehearsals for the United Negro College Fund TV show. Rawls was scheduled to sing Tony's song, Circumstance, towards the end of the show. While the two engaged in the conversation, singer Phyllis Hyman arrives. She embraces Lou and was introduced to Drake. Phyllis was so taken by Tony's looks, Lou Rawls became jealous because Phyllis wanted to get to know Drake. Tony said at the time, Lou Rawls had an attraction for Phyllis Hyman. At the last minute, Lou Rawls told producers of the show that he would not perform Tony's Circumstance song. So, another song was chosen. This, of course, blew Tony Drake's chances of exposure and success as a songwriter because of his looks and the politics that went along with it.
I might have had my master's and my PhD.
Tony Drake then signed with a New York-based indie label called Resurgence, founded by Al Harrison and named after his wife Clarissa and daughter Marissa, and laid down an unbelievable remake of Tommy Hunt's 1961 SEPTA classic hit, Human, back with Think About It in 1982. Drake's version of Human became one of the most heartfelt, passionate recordings on wax.
Why did you make me human? Think about it, how I love you, Think about it, how I love you,
Afterwards, the Resurgence label disappeared. Yet another missed opportunity for the public's long overdue discovery of Tony Drake. Here's the man himself.
I just got fed up with record companies because Music Core had failed me, and I felt that I had recorded a hit record there. And when I went over to Brunswick, it was no different. So I found out that if you weren't the chosen one, then you wouldn't get, your music wouldn't get exposed. So I was really at the point that I had to take things in my own hands. So we went out and recruited a group of New York businessmen. I had an attorney, I had advertisement people, I had people from all walks of business, you know, and they got together. I think there were like 10 people involved, and they financed a recording session for me to go in and record a CD, an album. 10 tracks, I think it was.
Right.
So we booked the Record Plant, which was a great recording studio back at that time that was partially owned by John Lennon.
Yes.
And it was beautiful. You know, I mean, these guys had become a management team, so they began to go out and purchase a wardrobe for me, you know, I mean, thousands of dollars worth of clothing. And I lived in Midtown Manhattan, right off Central Park West at that time. So, you know, for the next years, I was in and out of recording studios, and some work on the road with my band. You know, I traveled all over the world to many places. I even went as far as Greenland.
Wow.
That's the top of the world, you know.
That's right.
So, I mean, the experience that I had was equivalent to the experience almost that, you know, a more well-known artist might have experienced. And I think mine was longer because we worked for years on the road. You know, it wasn't just a short thing.
What's the name of your group?
Well, at one time I had a group called Tony Drake and the Pleasures, but mostly I went out alone with my own band, you know, just as Tony Drake, you know. And the amazing thing about that is I just sang songs that were good songs that people recognized, but I wasn't recognized or known for the records that I had recorded, you know.
Wow, that's
because I didn't know it. Nobody knew at that time that those records were known by anybody, you know.
In 1984, I purchased a UK Kent import compilation album entitled Soul of a Man from J&R Music World Record Store on Park Row that included the song Let's Play House. I remember the tune from my childhood years. It was first broadcast on New York's WLIB AM radio during the summer of 1969. I introduced the song to a good friend of mine named Steve Nicholas, who worked at a popular record store called Downstairs Records. Steve loved the song, He was also good friends with a New York radio jock named Felix Hernandez of WBGO Radio in New Jersey, and presented Let's Play House to Hernandez when he featured the song on his Saturday morning program. It became popular and added to his rotation playlists. A friend of Tony Drake's from Jersey heard Let's Play House and informed him that it was featured on Felix's show. Elated, Tony trucked down to Downstairs Records, where Steve Nicholas was working behind the counter. Drake asked for the song that Felix Hernandez featured on his Rhythm Review radio show called Let's Play House. After exchanged conversations between the two, Steve exclaimed, "You're Tony Drake. I'm the one that gave that song to Felix to play on his show." Drake then thanked him. Tony inquired to Steve where he got the song, and he revealed that he got it from a friend of his named Mike Boone.
You'll be the mommy. Oh, that's what you're gonna be.
On Saturday, September 10th, 1994, Steve Nicholas invited Tony Drake to Felix Hernandez's Rhythm Review dance party at the legendary Roseland Ballroom in New York City. It was a sold-out event with an ecstatic crowd of 3,200. Tony was persuaded by Steve to lip-sync Let's Play House, and Drake agreed. This was also the same evening that I was introduced to Tony for the first time through Steve. At approximately 1 a.m., Tony was introduced by Felix, and he took center stage. As Hernandez queued up Let's Play House, people began rushing to the edge of the stage, reaching out their hands to grab and touch him. Tony was stunned. He then realized that he still had the charisma and the presence to captivate an audience. What was going through your mind that night when you got on that stage and started, singing Let's Play House, lip syncing?
Yeah, well, what happened was, I can't say that I was really amazed that that took place, although I was amazed, but I guess I felt that that time was something that was destined to come, out all the years that Let's Play House had been out and became very famous in many other parts of the world, not in America so much, but only with record collectors in America. But the song had just become so huge in Europe and Asia and Jamaica and all over. People had known that song for years. And I felt as though it was just a moment that destiny had presented, that it had to happen at some point, that I got to feel. I had never had a chance to experience anything like that. 3,000 people, nevertheless, I mean, in Apollo, you would only get 500 people in the audience.
That's right.
Capacity, you can't fit 3,000 people in there.
That's right.
But in the Roseland Ballroom, it was such an appropriate event for that to have taken place. And it's a memorable event that goes down in my mind as one of the classic moments of my career.
More magic would take place 3 years later on Saturday, December 6, 1997, where Steve Nicholas organized a celebration for Felix Hernandez's 11th year on public radio at the Roseland Ballroom. Steve assembled a group of legendary R&B artists and radio personalities along with Tony Drake to commemorate Hernandez's contribution in returning rare classic R&B music to radio. Here now is Steve Nicholas introducing Tony Drake, where Tony makes a speech about Let's Play House being on Felix's show, and then you hear Felix mention Tony's song added to a new CD release called New York Soul Serenade.
Tony Drake, baby, Let's Play House. I'd like to especially thank Felix because Let's Play House was actually discovered on the Rhythm Review. And I'd like to thank you all for supporting the record. Thank you. By the way, if I might, Tony Drake's record, Let's Play House, has been very hard to get for many years. And a lot of you have been asking me where to get it. I'm happy to say that it is now available
Afterwards, Tony Drake was no longer pigeonholed. His music had finally transcended the categories of R&B soul. Outside the US, copies of his 1969 original musical recording single of Let's Play House were going for as much as $100. Collectors were disappointed when the investments were devalued, when Drake's music began appearing on various CD compilations, including the hot sellers from the UK entitled New York Soul Serenade and We're a Lover, and countless of others, which prominently featured Drake's name on their covers.
You're on the air.
Yes, Clyde, Tony Drake here.
Hey, Tony Drake.
Hey, man, welcome. You're in my hometown, you know.
Yeah, man, I'm in your home.
Tony Drake's newfound popularity was in the Caribbean communities, in conjunction with radio personalities such as Tony Ryan, Clive Williams, and others, where Tony was featured as a guest.
Yeah, this
is Mr. Tony Drake.
this is
Thing to say.
no, this is a very special brother. Tony, you've touched our lives, man. Your music, your beauty as a person.
And Jeff Hoffman's Dusty Show on KSER 90.7 FM in Everett, Washington.
Those of you who are longtime listeners of the Dusty Show, a gentleman who I've talked about and have played the music of over the last couple of years is a gentleman by the name of Tony Drake. Man, I'm proud to call a friend of mine. And I hope, Tony, you are listening via the web right now. And last week we had a chance to do some talking, something we haven't done in a long time. And I told him I'd be playing a couple of his songs right here on 90.7 FM, KSER Everett, A Sound Adventure.
Suddenly, I'm all alone. Suddenly, I don't belong.
Tony also founded his own music publication called Sagar Music, from the first two letters of his first name, Samuel, and the first two letters of his last name, Garner, and released two classic CDs. The Tony Drake Collection, Collector's Choice Volume 1, issued on CD Baby, Thursday, June 19, 2003. The CD contains 10 unreleased tracks recorded from 1973 to 1983, produced by Dennis Williams, musical director from the OJs, featuring his self-composed, self-recorded version of Living in the Footsteps of Another Man.
Hey, his baby's here. So is his darling dear. His child has a name. Can't face my friends, I'm so ashamed of.
Living in the footsteps of another man, said I'm living in.
Yeah, baby.
Living in the footsteps of another man, said I'm living in.
Hey.
And Tony Drake, Then and Now, the Tony Drake Collection Volume 2, released on Wednesday, August 13, 2008, featuring Drake's past recordings of Let's Play House, It Hurts Me More, Suddenly, and an alternate version of Living in the Footsteps of Another Man, released as a single on Andy Lowton's It's Soul Time label in 2005. Lowton founded the imprint in early 2000.
Hey, girl. Oh, yeah.
Living in the footsteps of another man, said I'm living in.
Girl, you got me.
Living in the footsteps of another man, said I'm living in.
Hey.
Tony dedicated both CDs to worldwide record collectors. Both were mastered by Dennis Drake and produced by David Williams, Dr. Dennis Williams, and Tony Drake.
Suddenly, I'm all alone. Suddenly, I don't belong.
Drake continued to wow and mesmerize audiences with his well-publicized concerts, including 2 appearances at the Swank Carib New York Club in New Rochelle on Friday, March 1st, 1996, the Record Collectors Competition Finals on Sunday, August 24th, 1997, and years later at the Soul Trip in Brunswick, New Jersey in 2006.
I'm all alone.
Tony Drake is admired by loving, adoring fans the world over, including his extreme popularity in England among the Northern Soul fans, where his recording of Suddenly is a constant staple in all the clubs in the UK. The Brunswick Blue Label stereo issue with limited copies is valued at $1,000 or more. Tony graced various music publications, such as the November 2000 issue of the UK's In the Basement magazine, with a 6-page article entitled Tony Drake in His Own Footsteps. And also he was featured in the Manifesto magazine as well. Drake is also featured in author Tony Douglas's autobiographical book on Jackie Wilson called Lonely Teardrops, the Jackie Wilson story, published in 1997 and a revived second edition in 2001. Throughout the years, tribute articles on Tony Drake were conducted by A.R. man and record shop owner Carlton Thomas and music writer Kevin Gomes on the celebrated document on the 30th anniversary release of Let's Play House. In 2007, 2 reunions took place with Tony Drake and his old friends and former musical label mates, the Diplomats, at a Swank Hotel arranged by Adrian Crosdale, head of Ace and Kent Recordings in the UK, and Harlem's Abyssinian Baptist Church. Drake, who hadn't seen the guys in over 30 years, was excited, and they all got together and reminisced about the good old days.
And rock the baby till the crying has stopped.
On Wednesday evening, September 6, 2000, Tony Drake and myself attended the R&B Pioneer Award ceremony at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York, hosted by Smokey Robinson. The Charlottes were among the inductees, along with Sylvia Robinson, The Impressions, Clyde Otis, and so many others. Tony proudly watched his closest friends, the Charlottes and Clyde Otis, being inducted and receiving their awards, and got to witness Eugene Record reunite with his musical comrades in a wonderful performance. It was a night to remember. In 2008, Tony Drake returned to the studio to record and release new music, including his mellow rendition of Brooke Benton's 1970 masterpiece hit, Rainy Night in Georgia.
It's a rainy night in Georgia. Such a rainy night in Georgia.
And his warm, heartfelt spiritual version of It's Me Again Job, written and composed by Jamaican reggae roots artist Luciano in 1995. Drake's version hit #1 in Jamaica for weeks in 2008.
It's me again, child, and I'm down on my knees today. Help me, God, I pray. Don't wanna be carried away.
Luciano praised Tony for his wonderful interpretation of his song.
The world today, oh God, and you will see. Fabulous seas, backbiters, take life in vanity.
Soon afterwards, Tony Drake retired from the music business, but continued to write music.
Through you all blessings flow. From yesterday, even today, and tomorrow.
On Saturday morning, July 22nd, 2017, Tony Drake sadly passed away peacefully. He is survived by his former wife Enid, 3 of his children, Mignon, Drake, and Tony, and brother Lucky, and friend and companion, Laura. You know, to become a quintessential artist represents the most perfect or typical example of quality or class. Tony Drake was the exception to the rule through his gifts of talent, compelling charisma, and wisdom that will leave an indelible footprint in the entertainment world forever. As music writer Larry L. Lash quoted, "Tony, you have touched our lives with your music, your beauty as a person, and as a spiritual human being. We love you dearly. Let's just be thankful that the music outlives the man." Until we meet again, musically soul fans, I am the Chancellor of Soul.
You take the baby, girl, in your arms.
Soul Facts, a show written, created, produced, and copywritten by the Chancellor of Soul, Mike Boone. Soul Facts is a non-profit music presentation.